Tuesday, February 10th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Today on the show, we are exploring 75 years of journalism at Memorial University. The Muse, the student-run local paper, back in print, by the way, written and produced by my panel today. We're going to talk to them about journalism and all things MUN. This is really nice. The Muse 75th anniversary supplement. John Harris, established 1950, right? This is great. And for everyone listening, because this is a radio show, I'm holding the 75th anniversary issue of The Muse. Editor-in-Chief John Harris is here. We're going to get to everyone else in 2 seconds, but congrats on this. How does it feel?
Thank you so much. Honestly, it's been so incredible to see so many young journalists come up at the Muse and over the 75-year history, and to finally be back in print after 9 years. I'm just so proud of everybody on the team and what we've been able to accomplish. But yeah, it feels good.
All right, so this is the jump off. Like I said in my introduction, the start of the show there, we're going to talk all about 75 years of student journalism. We're going to talk about what is in this anniversary issue and the ins and outs of just being a journalist at Memorial University while being a student and media in today's world, right? And this, back to print bit, which I find really cool. Let's do a whip around. Everyone introduce yourselves and your positions, and we'll jump into it. James, you go first. Yeah, we have two people sharing a mic. We have 5 guests today, and there's 4 mics in here, but it's great.
Yes, so I'm an intern. I just started. I started last semester as a volunteer. This semester I'm an intern, and I do mostly writing about various different topics. But I help out with filming as well and reporting, like on camera as well. So yeah. All
right, Rebecca, you're next.
I'm Rebecca. I've been with the Muse about a year now, actually.
Cool.
It was a year ago that John actually approached me at Booster Juice. It was super early in the morning, and I didn't really know what was going on, but I was like, yes, absolutely, I'll join and help out with the Muse. But I started off doing a lot of interviewing at first. Over the summer, I would go to a lot of shows, just get involved more with the community, and it's just been so great ever since. But yeah, I do a lot of the arts and cultures stuff and a bit of writing here and there too.
Cool. Lee Hurley, do you recruit people at Booster Juice like John does, or do you recruit in other places?
Instead, I recruit people at their jobs. We recently had one volunteer join, and I had seen her working at Shoppers, and she mentioned, she was like, "You're on the Muse, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm the managing editor." And she was like, "I was kind of interested," and I was like, "You should come to a meeting." And then we're doing this round table, and she's like, "Yeah, Lee came up to me at my job," and I was like, "Guys, I swear I don't harass people at their jobs to join the Muse. But if people ask me about it, I'm like, yeah, come to a meeting, absolutely." What's
it like to be managing editor? What does that job entail for the Muse?
A little bit of everything. I still write my own articles. I'll edit other people's. John and I usually will each do a pass of an article before it goes out. I help out with the social media. It's kind of just jack of all trades, whatever needs to be done. But I did take on a lot of logistics for the print issue, for sure.
Yeah, that managing editor side of things, the logistical side. Kaelem, give us the best introduction of yourself. Welcome back to the show, by the way.
Oh, thanks. My name's Kaelem Tingate. I'm about 6'2" and have a big head of red hair. I'm social media. Well, I don't know. You said best explain yourself.
No, this is go. No, keep filling the room. This is great.
I'm social media editor, so I take care of most of the kind of videos that you'll see coming up on Facebook, Instagram, whatever that is. Often I have kind of a hand in most of the videos that come out, whether that's usually behind the camera or video editing. But I'm on camera from time to time. I try to avoid it, give people the chance to be in there themselves and kind of get new people involved, because that's always an exciting thing for people, because they get to see themselves pop up on their For You page or their friends see them. And yeah, no, that's my biggest role has been involved since not the most recent September, but the September before, and then started just kind of helping out video editing as we were getting back on social media, and then now have kind of stepped into a bigger role managing that side of it.
So I've noticed, I've been seeing that for a while, right? The social media side, which has been fantastic. And then watching the journalism and the work that you all have been doing, and then the lead up to going back to print and stuff. All that's a lot of work. Walk me through some of the conversation of where you were starting from and kind of like where you are right now, because you're really putting out a lot of great stuff, and I'm seeing you here, there, and everywhere. So who wants to, John, do you want to start with this?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as students, it's really hard sometimes to balance our extracurriculars with our schoolwork, and most of us also work additional jobs on top of doing the Muse. So it is becoming, harder and harder for student groups, especially to get people to, work for free or to get people involved from time to time. But we've all just been so passionate about news, about rebuilding what is such an important institution at Memorial and at in the province, because we see the decline of the journalism industry happening before our eyes. We're seeing people becoming less informed. We're seeing the blocking of news from social media, and we are really, getting an incredible response to when we have been able to, slyly get back on Instagram and start giving people news again, despite the Meta ban. And people really respond well to local journalism because they know how important it is, and they like to see what's going on in their community. They like to be informed. I think that it's just sad that the powers that be have made it less and less of a way to make a living, or a way to find a career. And so I think many of us, we might not all go into journalism, but it's definitely been such an incredible process, learning and growing through doing it.
Lee Hurley, I'm looking at your Dear Readers letter.
Yes, letter from the editor.
Yeah, so you and John both wrote a letter each. Yours, when I started at MUN, I didn't know the Muse existed. Fresh out of a small CBS high school with nothing of the sort, and shortly after COVID, Memorial's campus was an unfamiliar ghost town. I never would have imagined that something so remarkable could exist here for so long. A few paragraphs down, a 2001 issue of the paper describes its main purpose as discouraging apathy. And I think that claim is well-founded. The research you did and the thinking you did around the 75th anniversary issue, what are your thoughts around just that jumping off point of what you discovered, and then that bit on your role in discouraging apathy?
Yeah, so I've always been the kind of person where I don't really have many extracurriculars. I kind of jumped around between sports and whatever as a kid, and I couldn't really find one thing that I was really, really into, And starting at MUN, I was I kind of want to join a club, get involved somehow, because that's what everyone says when you start university. They're get involved. And I learned that the Muse existed from a classmate of mine in my second year. So first year, didn't know it was a thing at all. But that was 2022. So it was freshly, very shortly after COVID. And then I had always been I really want to get involved, but I wasn't really sure how. And then Kaelem and I both started at the same time. I applied for a Muse position, and then just immediately fell in love. There's this kind of running joke, I guess, that student journalists are bad at school because they just dedicate all their time to that stuff. And it maybe wasn't true for me before, but now maybe a little, because if my professors are listening to this, I'm sorry. But I just love it so much. It's kind of addicting, honestly. I just really, really love the Muse and doing stuff. And on the discouraging apathy bit, I think the basis of anything good is just care. You just have to care about things. And I really wanted to have that be a central idea to coming back to print.
So Kaelem, how do you measure, you're making videos, you're going out talking to folks. When you measure care and connection, how do you, I know you can look at how many people watch a video and stuff, but what's the conversation around being well, this worked, this didn't, here's what we're trying to do, here's a mouth off piece compared to, which can be serious or not, or here's just a streeter on George Street about something as well. What's the range for you folks for looking at the social media that you put out?
I think the biggest thing for me is measuring the quality and kind of seeing how we've improved from the start has been one of the biggest things for me to kind of show that we've improved as journalists. Because at the end of the day, I think student newspapers yes, 100%, they're super important. They provide value to the student population, but a really big piece of that as well is building the skills for students and creating that opportunity to get into journalism. And so I think by kind of measuring how we've improved and kind of even our consistency, the quality of the content that we're putting out, the quality of the information that we're able to provide. And there's not a super objective way to see that, but I think you can kind of, the longer you do it and kind of referencing back to the older stuff we've done, you can see a significant improvement. And that's been one of the biggest things for me. I don't really look so much at the numbers coming out now. For me, the bigger thing is, are we consistently uploading quality content to the website, to the social media, and is it still improving?
Yeah. I mean, I've watched it improve, and I love watching, like, so John, you might be at something and covering it, and the way I look at it now, for the way the industry's evolving, because a lot of stuff we're doing with CBC, it's like something is live happening, we're supposed to be there, right, and talking about it live on camera. So we're evolving. And we get paid to do this stuff because it's our professions. But I look at you folks evolving and doing exactly what the industry is doing, and I find that really, really impressive. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we as journalists have to adapt, and unfortunately, as it is, it was more effective. I think the Muse was more effective, 20 years ago when everybody read the paper and had a massive distribution of 10,000 and. Over 10,000. They're making tons of revenue in print because print ads still paid, and they had, Alex Bell, who we'll talk to later on, but he wrote a letter in the print edition as well, where he talked about, right now we have 3 paid editors. Back in the day, they had 12.
Yeah.
There was a huge difference between what was, the economy of newspapers back then, where they could actually reach a lot of people through print, which they controlled more or less. And I think now we're forced to try and reach people where they're at in their algorithms, whether it be on Instagram or TikTok. But a lot of that is not up to us whether somebody gets to see our content. So I think it has forced us to change. But we, especially with this print edition, we wanted to recognize that print is still such a huge, important part of our history and the legacy of the Muse and what it's been able to accomplish. And there's some really incredible stories throughout history of the groundbreaking stuff that the Muse did for the province and for the country.
Yeah, it's quite the heritage, right? James, you did a piece on a case for print media. You interviewed Craig Westcott, editor of The Shoreline. Tell me your thoughts around that piece and why you did it.
My thoughts were, growing up, I was a big reader, and I mentioned in the article, Newfoundland Herald, down home were like huge parts of, not so much my household, but my nan's household. But
there you go. Yeah.
Just as well. It's the saying. I spend a lot of time at my nan's. I still do, when I'm home. So in doing this, I just thought it was a very important a part of growing up, and just kind of like a very good glimpse into Newfoundland culture. And I'm from Labrador, and very isolated towns.
Which town is it?
St. Louis.
Okay, right on.
Yeah. And so it was a very good window into Newfoundland culture, and then I wanted to replicate that kind of in my article. And then I'd actually spoken with Craig Westcott before about a different matter, and then I reached out to him to interview him for this article, and he was just a wealth of information, absolutely. And because I thought about him then when I seen The Shoreline all over the place. I was like the biggest circulation newspaper, so I should reach out, and it was good to get his perspective and really bring like that Newfoundland and Labrador culture into perspective, and then also bring that to students at MUN. I thought that was a really good window.
Yeah, like someone like Craig Westcott, who's been around for a while and has so much experience, and the Shoreline still, like, I was in the grocery store the other day. Shoreline is there, right? Like it's, as much as the world has changed, sometimes it's really interesting to be able to kind of go and have that tactile thing. That's a community paper that still exists and is important, right? Even though, like John was laying out there, we're losing a lot of it, and whether it's internationally or across the country, right? I mean, the Washington Post just lost 30% of their staff 2 weeks ago. Right? There's so much happening. So yes, I love all of those points. Rebecca, I want to bring you into this. On the arts and culture side of things, what's the exploration like for yourself as you've been learning at the Muse and reporting?
I've got to experience so many things that I didn't even know existed in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, I just think about how, I believe it was early December, I was doing something Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I believe, and they were all 3 very different events. And I got to go with one of my good friends, and just being able to go out into the community and actually like firsthand experience all of these things that were just going on right under my nose. And I also just think about how another one of my good friends said the other day that you can't have a village without villagers. And I've had that stuck in my mind for ever since I heard her say it. And I just believe that that is what the Muse is all about, is just going into the community and giving back. And ever since I have been with the Muse, like about a year ago now, that's absolutely been my experience. I've met so many great people, attended so many great events. I would not take it back at all.
So now that you're back in print, what's the conversation around what goes into an issue, and also compared to what you're putting out online for video, and how does that kind of how does that conversation work for what you're thinking of putting out to the world and the responsibilities that you hold to yourselves for what it means to be with the Muse?
I think horizontal, like you need everything, I think, in today's day and age.
Just shooting guns off all over.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think
Content
the
farming.
reason why the print issue got in so many people's hands and so many people cared about it, part of that, at least for our generation, and not necessarily the people that have saw the previous version of the Muse, but for new students at MUN, I don't think a lot of them would have known what the Muse was if it wasn't for the kind of the new age social media website side. And so I think you kind of, now with the era of everybody being on their phones and getting everything digitally, you need that to supplement and kind of drive people, funnel people into knowing about or receiving the print edition and knowing that it's happening.
Yeah, I think for so many alumni's experience, the Muse was like a cornerstone of their experience, whether they were actually at the Muse or at CHMR or at MUNSU or the CSU at the time, and it just was more in the interactions, or if it was just the physical presence of it on campus in the newsstands. And I think that it creates what a newspaper and a campus does. It creates a sense of community that I think many people have talked about lacking at Memorial because of, people have called it a commuter campus, a school that lacked school spirit, and whether it's because it's Newfoundland and Labrador's only university, so that there's not that inter-university rivalries, or there's no I'm not proud of it because it's the only way to go, but that's not how I feel. So I think that the Muse is like Becca says, is so important to build community on campus and to make people feel home, to make people feel like they're part of something, and to bring people together in a way that social media by itself doesn't naturally do. I think when you have dedicated journalists that are working on creating stories for people, on creating videos, on facilitating conversations, that's when you have that real sense of community. Because otherwise, I think a lot of times Facebook groups can be pretty divisive and argumentative, and without enough facilitation of community.
So what was it like to hold this thing in your hand and sit with it and be like, you know what, we did this, and this matters, and I can't be distracted and scroll to something else as I do it.
It was fantastic. I cried so many times. Like when we went to pick up all of the copies one day, like I cried. It was like such a really tangible payoff for all the work we were putting in terms of like the deciding like what we were going to put in it.
Yeah, go for it.
We knew for sure we wanted to have like a bit of a retrospective kind of approach to a lot of the stuff in there, where it is a 75th anniversary edition. Like some of it is talking about like the legacy of the Muse. Like I interviewed Michael Connors, who's like notable alumni. One of our writers, Emily Torrance, did a really fantastic article on like the history of feminist journalism at the Muse and like kind of the decline in political journalism. And so things like that, we wanted to kind of reflect on things, but also have, you know, all the hallmarks of a typical print newspaper. Like there's a really, really funny comic from one of our contributors, Zoe Blair, about like, if the Munnell juice drips on you, you turn into a Burton's Pond duck. And we wanted to have a crossword and we wanted to have letters. And the rest of it was kind of just like our team like pitching ideas. And like they're all so like, I am in awe of everybody, honestly. Like I'm so proud of everyone who like wrote something for that or like did anything at all for it, genuinely.
I've wondered why there's been an increase to the duck population around Burton's Pond over the years. Because when I was there 20 years ago, one duck.
It's the Munnell juice, man. It'll get you.
Munneling.
On the line, we've got Alex Bill, editor of All Newfoundland and Labrador. Alex, how you doing?
Oh, hey, Adam. Good. Nice to be.
Yeah, man, you're a frequent flyer on the show these days. It's great to have you back. Tell us when you were at the Muse.
Yeah, from 2003 to 2007, and I was kind of lucky in that I got an editorial position as sports editor in my first year of university because I did a high school internship there, and the sports editor at the time, who didn't know anything about sports, quit. So I was making money, not very much. I think it was $1,500 over 2 semesters at the time, but I was making money as a student journalist when I was 18 years old, which is really a kind of fortunate position to be in.
What do you think the Muse has meant for folks like yourself and others over the years?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I was just saying, what do you think the Muse has meant for either yourself or others who have gone through and then ended up in journalism for their careers?
It was critical. It was more important to me, and I think Mike Connors at NTV and others who were there would say the same thing. It was like our primary education, our classes were really secondary, which was reflected in my grades in those first couple of years in particular.
There you go.
It was the formative training ground for journalists across the province, a huge number of them, and that has made it a vital part of the journalism kind of landscape in this province.
Anyone in here have anything for Alex? Any questions? John Harris?
Yeah, I mean, Alex has been really great to us. I mean, he's done a workshop and we've had lots of chats over the years. And I think that it's so cool to see, like Alex said, so many journalists that are working here in the province now and also across Canada even have gotten their start at the Muse. And having that experience for people who may not have gone to an official journalism school in the province, I think has been really important because journalism needs, I think, lots of perspectives from lots of different areas of the world. And some of the best journalists don't have journalism degrees. A lot of them do. But I think that the Muse is vital for the future of the province's journalism and media because it's such a great training ground where you can make mistakes, where you can learn from each other. You can experiment and do different types of articles, types of stories, in a lower pressure environment. I definitely hope that we can keep the Muse going for a lot longer and keep the momentum.
Any thoughts on that, Alex?
Yeah, I would just say that I think there is an onus on the university that it has never wanted to accept to keep that going as well. And I understand they want to be hands-off when it comes to the Muse. It's independent. It's an independent student newspaper. But its livelihood affects not just the university, but the province, and it's important. And the hands-off approach is sometimes a little too convenient for Memorial. And it couldn't come at a worse time when it comes to their finances. But, when I look at Memorial and I look at the financial state of the Muse over, the last couple of decades, I think the university bears some responsibility and maybe blame for what could be a better situation today. And I would challenge the executive to do what they can to try and make the Muse be able to grow in the future.
Before I let you go, you also do a podcast. Tell us, do you want to plug your podcast for the week?
Yeah, The Honorable and the Heck with Andrew Parsons. We covering sports this week. We're doing one with Alan Doyle the week to come, trying to do kind of long form on politics, telling some stories and getting into some issues that you don't see covered in articles day to day. And just one more way that, outside of like the 5 dailies in the city, people can get news media in this province. It's never easy to do, but I applaud people like John and Lee and everybody who are doing it at the university and elsewhere. And hopefully we can keep growing it and your podcast as well.
Hey, thanks for my podcast plug. This is Newfoundland and Labrador, out every Wednesday. Alex, Bill, thanks so much.
And Muse News as well on YouTube.
Yes.
Take care.
Plug in Muse News on YouTube. Jim White is here, host of the morning show. Here's my chair. It's a crowded house here today. Say hi to everyone. So, when were you at? Because Alex Bill was an intern at the Muse when you were there, right?
Stop dating me. That is so rude, Adam. Yeah, I was at the Muse from, 2001 till 2005. Yes, a long time ago. When I started, you're talking about like people learning about journalism. Yeah. Literally had no idea what was involved in the gig when I first started. But yeah, that's where I got my training ground. I was the arts editor there. And then I was the copy editor, and you folks don't know this. I was thinking while I was listening to you upstairs that production night was a huge night once a week.
Oh, I know.
You've heard the lore.
Yes, I've heard the lore. I've heard the tales of the leather couch.
Yep.
And all the pizza.
Yep, that too.
That's one thing I'm really jealous that we don't really have. Like, we don't really have a proper office space, and like even doing this print issue, like we just sent it off to MUN Print Services. Like we didn't have to all like work on it together or whatever. And I'm like, we probably would have killed each other, but
I'm surprised there weren't more murders in the office. Yeah. So for the folks at home listening, that was my goodness, I want to say very, very late nights on Tuesday nights. I think it was Tuesdays, to get everything turned around. And it's literally going through all of the copy, putting everything together in the files, and then sending it off to the printer, probably as late as we could push it. And yeah, there were nights I slept on the floor in the office because I had to get up and go to class the next morning. And, the news was happening. Stuff wasn't filed on time.
So then, with like talking about putting the paper together, right? So with the 75th anniversary issue, how nerve-wracking? Because like if it's online, you can easily fix it. When you print it and it's out in the world forever, it's out, and you you can't fix a typo if there is a typo in the 75th anniversary issue. What was that like?
Yeah, so if you find any typos in the 75th anniversary edition, please just keep it to yourself, because there's nothing we can do now.
There's already been 2 mistakes people have pointed out to me, and I'm like, my heart just sinks. Like the way I was paralyzed with fear, like hovering over the send email button to send it to MUN Print Services, it was horrific. And similarly, it was sent at like 5 a.m.
But we definitely missed that aspect of it. I think having like a bi-weekly or a monthly deadline to really put the fire under people and get them going. But we also got kicked out of that office for some reason. A lot of institutional memory gets lost. We don't remember why we were kicked out, but it was back in 2017. I think around the time they stopped printing the Muse, we also lost our larger office space. Now we have a small room on the top. So there's a few things like that. Same thing with the referendum, the media levy, which has stayed at $2 since 2001, and has to inflation. It's been 25 years, so that money does not go as far as
just
it did.
For reference, a lot of other student papers across the country will pull like $5 to $7 per student per semester for their funding, and these are bigger schools, and MUN is roughly 12,000 people, and we get $2 per student per semester.
So yeah, so that those are a couple of things that as we're trying to rebuild the Muse and those kind of major things. Our office, that's kind of what we're thinking of. How do we? And we're so inspired by people like you who've come up through the Muse, and we read in the Digital Archives Initiative and have seen, and that's why I think we feel okay to push the boundaries or to just put ourselves out there, because we know that it's been done before, and it's been done on a bigger scale, or it's been done in an even more out there or outrageous way. So really, there's I think no better mentors than everybody who has been there before, that we can kind of look at their legacy and see what has come before us and try and live up to that.
Do you have any of the bound volumes of the printed ones? Yeah.
We have all of
Have you
them.
gone through them? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Digital Archives Initiative by Memorial University has archived all of our past editions
Looking
as well.
through that may actually be like my favorite pastime. Like, I'm not even kidding. And well, Becca did a lot of looking through it, looking for like the graphics for the collage on the back cover. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's all past logos of the Muse and like little graphics that they used to do.
Yeah, tell us about that, Becca.
When I started looking through the archives, I was really intrigued by all of the different, I guess, headers there was. Like every week, or I think it was every 2 weeks, that there was like a different design. Yeah, and like that was like really admirable, because I was just at a loss, like what we were going to do for like the back cover or the print. So I kept looking through the archives, and I just thought about how like tedious that must have been at times, and definitely some late nights, I would say, making those. But that's like where the inspiration came from, was to put them on the back cover as into like a collage, because I do like making collages myself. And I mean, another aspect of that too was trying to find one design that I wanted to base off of. I just couldn't do it. Like it was all just so cool.
It wasn't originally going to be the back cover either. Like you said you were going to do a collage, and I was like, okay, awesome. Like, can't wait to see it. And then we were kind of like starting like formatting and stuff. And myself and one of our staff, Emily, who helped a lot with the formatting, Rebecca sent us the collage, and we were like, that's the back cover. We were originally going to put an ad on the back cover, and I was like, no, it has to be this. Like, it was one of those moments where you're like, I can't imagine it as anything other than this.
I really love that you did this. It's like, it brings back memories to me too. Yeah, that's awesome.
There's been some crazy, crazy moments in Muse history. Thinking of at the launch party we had on Friday, I was speaking to St. John's lawyer Bob Buckingham, who was telling me about this one event where the Muse published the manifesto of the Front Libération de Québec, the FLQ, which was illegal at the time, but in the name of free speech or public knowledge, they published the manifesto. I think in the 90s, where we've spoke about this before, but there was a gay and lesbian edition that created an immense amount of controversy for an article on how to have safe gay sex. Yeah. And that
they got like obscenity charges.
Well, the RNC was looking into them for that. There was a huge press conference in defense of the Muse, and unfortunately, they didn't get much support from the local media at the time. You folks weren't around, obviously, but it's really it's really amazing to see. I mean, when you look through the history of comics in the province, I know Elizabeth Whitten, who's here, has written about that. The queer history of Newfoundland, Ray Roman has written about. All of those and many other histories like that use the Muse a lot, because some of the only writings about queer history or about queer issues of those eras were in the Muse. And that was I think that's another great aspect of campus media, where issues that are more controversial sometimes and aren't always picked up right away by the mainstream can have a platform and a voice in student media.
I'm going to go back upstairs. I'm going to go back to my day job.
What time did you wake up this morning?
3:30. So I'm going to go finish my shift. Adam, have fun.
Thank you.
And folks, again, thank you for coming in. This is great. And I'm going to steal this copy, Adam.
No, take it.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to peruse through it upstairs. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Jim White there, morning show host, as we're playing musical chairs because we have so many people in here. You're listening to The Signal. I'm Adam Walsh. If you're briefly confused by the CBC host there, Jen White was just in. We've got a full crew from the Muse here talking about the 75th anniversary, all the journalism that went into it, the thoughts around it, the state of student journalism, and covering the community that is Memorial University. All right, we got another call coming up in a few minutes, but how are we all doing? How are we feeling so far?
Fantastic.
I like this. Like, thanks for coming in for the hang. Like, I love an hour of just kind of, or today's 50 minutes because we have the Olympics at the end of it. But just hanging out, talking about everything. Like, so for Jen's part there, Alex, when Alex was on as well, any kind of other thoughts come up from what they were saying?
I think the pay hasn't changed. I think as Alex Bill was getting paid just about as much as all of us are still getting paid.
It hasn't gone changed since 2001, and he was there 2003.
Yeah. So those are.
No, I was there I was on Munsu in 2001, and or I think the year after. Anyways, I was in university back then. I remember that talk for the $2 when I was there, and that was like my third year of university. And all these years since, it's still like $2, like, which is wild.
Yeah, I mean, other fees at the university increase every single year with CPI, including the Munsu fee, including the Canadian Federation of Students fee. So that's one thing that I think the people that put that in place didn't have the foresight to see. So that's one thing I think we're going to advance in a referendum this year, we'll
try our best.
Well, yeah, at least put it forward and make the case to have a sustainable journalism at MUN. We're going to try and advance it to just by inflation. We're not going to try and increase it. We're going to stay true to the $2, but increase it to what $2 would be now by CPI, which would be $3.39. And then year after year, for the next 75 years, we're hopeful that journalism at MUN will still be sustainable and not have a complete inflation reduction of its budget.
Michael Connors is on the line, co-host of the NTV Evening News Hour. How you doing, sir?
Hi, Adam. Long time no speak. How are you doing?
Yeah, man. Good to have you on. It's been a minute. Nice to hear your voice. Tell us about your time at the Muse.
Well, my time, I was there. I was on the 5-year plan when I was at university in the 90s. I joined in 1994. I think I walked into the office my first week and never left. And I got my degree in history. I was a major in history, minor in poli-sci. But my parents say that I actually majored in the Muse while I was there. It was my whole life pretty much for those years at university. It was a tremendous time for me, a lot of fun, and I remember it very fondly.
Yeah, and I mean, it was yourself and like a bunch of others, but I mean, our colleague, David Cochran was there with you as well during that time too, right?
That's right.
What was that like? What was it like being like? Because you both had such fantastic careers, but to remember those starting points and like kind of being so green, and then seeing each other learn and develop over the years. What's that been like?
Yeah, it's kind of surreal to look back on it. I mean, we were literally both just starting out. We both got involved initially just as volunteers, writing news, and then we ran for editorial positions, and I became copy editor and then editor-in-chief, and he became news editor. And it turned out to be a really great working partnership. We worked as a tandem for a long time, covering student issues on campus. And it was kind of funny because those were, I think we started in the same place. We both learned at the same time. And then once we became professionals, we actually ended up working for competing news outlets. He was covering the House of Assembly for CBC, and I was covering the House of Assembly for NTV. But that friendship always remained. And I think both of us, we look back on it as a tremendously productive working relationship we had while we were at the Muse.
100%. Folks, any question for Michael before...
Well, yeah. What do you think was the biggest changes you've seen since today versus back then?
Well, the biggest, most obvious one is there was no such thing as social media when we were on campus, and I can't even imagine what it would have been like to be a student in that kind of environment. The Muse had a web page. It was fairly new. I think Dupes, who was a managing editor before us, was one of the initial people who started that up, and it was still, the web page then was just kind of an add-on. Like, all the effort really went into the physical newspaper, and yeah, I mean, seeing what you guys do now with with all the the Instagram reels and the TikTok videos, and having you're basically doing video journalism now, which was something that was like not even on our radar back then. I think we got our first digital camera while we were then that used 3.5-inch floppy disks. I mean, that's just just a few examples of how much the technology has changed from the 1990s to today, and obviously the issues with the print going into decline and all the issues that the paper had with ending the print edition a few years ago. So I was really happy to see you, John, and everyone working with you bring back a 75th anniversary edition in print. But I mean, the changes have been absolutely massive. Another change, because I heard you speaking just before I came on air about the issues you're having with the media fee that the students pay. That didn't even exist yet when we were there. I was there. We were directly funded by the council, the student council, out of the student council budget, and then advertising. Advertising back then made up most of our revenue, and it was supplemented by the student council budget. I think while I was there, we had our first constitution passed, which gave us, a level of autonomy from the student council. And there were discussions about going for a referendum for a student fee. We didn't do it while I was there. It did happen after I left, after I graduated. And then I know you've been going through your issues repeatedly over the years, trying to, where you've been locked into that fee, which hasn't really allowed the paper to grow in light of inflation since then.
Anything else from Michael before we let him go?
Well, thank you so much for getting interviewed by Lee.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Had to put
and
it
I'll
on
give
the
a shout out
first
to my
proper
son.
page.
I know you both work with my son, Andrew, and he's having a great time there, so I'm glad that you've been so great to him.
Absolutely. We love Andrew.
He's the best.
Michael Connors, thank you so much for coming on the show. Good luck with the news tonight.
Thank you very much. See you, Adam.
All right, Michael Connors there with NTV News, of course, co-host of the NTV Evening News Hour, and also an alumni with the Muse. And his son was on. We interviewed him during the Canada Games. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've been really blessed to have so many amazing volunteers that have sometimes also have become staff or being able to pay them somehow. But we really want to stress that if you're a student at MUN and you have an opinion, you want to write an opinion piece, you want to interview people, we'll put you in front of a camera. We'll get you behind the camera. Anybody at MUN that wants to be involved, it is really an open door policy because we want the most, we need the help. We need all the help we can get. So
absolutely, yeah.
So learning this history, right? Because we talked about LGBTQ plus, when HIV came on the scene, student protests and movements. But when you start with the Muse, you don't know this history. You don't know all that was there. But because of this, I mean, you would have found some of it out anyways. Mm-hmm. But having this real 75th anniversary reason to dig into it, what's it been like learning about the history and heritage and how that's played into the big provincial conversation over the years? Because it's such a legacy.
I mean, it's the 75th anniversary, which happens to coincide with pretty closely to the 75th anniversary of the province.
Pretty
our,
close.
Our paper was our paper was founded in 1950 in December, the first issue, and it was also when Memorial first became a university up from a college where people, used to have to go before 1949. You have to finish your degree in Nova Scotia or Ontario. You can only get 2 years at Memorial College.
Imagine that.
And so really the Muse is kind of a real just accumulation of the work of the young people of this province over the 75 years of being part of Confederation. And so but what's in the Muse is really a reflection of the spirit of youth throughout the years. So there's years of activism, there's years of more professionalization of the news. There's eras where it's mostly campus gossip. There was the Marxist years. There's the clubs and societies years. So there's so much that you can learn by going through the archives of the Muse. And it just really, I think, when you're part of a club or society, with the amount of kind of turnover year after year, it's so important to know what came before you, because you can build on it then. If you didn't know what happened before, and you're just restarting every year. And going through the Muse archives, it's clear that many in student politics are just starting that conversation over and over again. It's like, we've had this debate in the 70s, we had this debate in the 80s,
absolutely.
we've had this debate in the 90s.
I love this, but it's a history of the student movement by Isabel Ojeda, and it says this was September 1965. Student leader Rex Murphy competes in a national debating tournament in Lennoxville, Quebec. He gives a speech calling the proposed tuition program a sham that is more froth than substance, and likens Smallwood, so former Premier Joey Smallwood, to a dictator. The speech receives national coverage, and Smallwood gives a televised provincial broadcast telling Murphy not to come home. Days later, Smallwood announces free tuition will be extended to students in their second year.
Yeah, I mean, if you look through the history of the student movement in the province and the Muse, students had a lot of say and a lot of sway. And I think when you lose student media, when that declines, but even media in general, it's bad for democracy. It's bad. Students have less of a voice if there's not a strong campus paper that is actively looking for their interests, that is giving students a voice, that is giving young people a voice. And university campuses across the country and across the world are the catalyst for so much progressive change that we've seen. And I think that speaks to the Palestine protests that we've been seeing across the country, and we have featured a lot of student voices on that. It goes to the Vietnam era, when campuses were the nexus of the protests.
And from draft dodgers coming up, and speaking of which, in this one, opinions, right? Why I sailed to Palestine, Sadie Mies, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's such an incredible story of the Munn Students for Palestine. We started covering that since the beginning of their occupation, but Sadie Mies, who's been involved as a graduate student and has been involved since the beginning of that campus movement, actually went to try to sail to Gaza, to try to break the siege.
Part of the flotilla.
As part of the flotilla. And
was arrested. Or
kidnapped, or
however you want to,
whatever you want to call it. But it was
taken into custody
by the Israeli forces, and details her mistreatment and the mistreatment she saw of other Palestinians in prisons in occupied territories. So I think that there's a lot of important voices that need to have a platform and that don't always get it outside of campus media.
We're out of 55 today because of the Olympics, and we're going to stick to it today because it cuts us off no matter what we do. Final thoughts from folks, either final thought or Kaelem, also from you. What's it like going up to folks for the video side of it? What have you learned about interviewing people on video for approaching them?
I think what I've done and kind of the biggest changes that I've at least rotated kind of content-wise from when we started is social media really gives you the opportunity to be personable and highlight people as themselves and who they are. Yeah. So I've changed kind of my approach as an interviewer, going from more broad topics to getting people's specific experiences, kind of their stories, instead of keeping it broad, because that's the beauty. If you only really have a minute 30 on social media,
keep it tight,
and the best thing people can talk about is themselves, and so you want to hear their experience and their lives is the best thing you can get out of it, because that's the best thing they can talk on. And then besides that, I think I've gotten a lot better at the rejection therapy of going up to people and being like, hey, do you want to be in a video? Do you want to be interviewed?
Oh, yeah.
That's a skill, and it is one of those things that just gets easier over time.
30 seconds left each. James, final thoughts? What's the next thing you're working on?
The next thing I'm working on, I am...
Going back to Belle Island. We got to. We did some amazing Belle Island coverage the past summer, but we need to go back and finish it off.
For sure.
Yeah, so I'd say that's my next thing on my radar.
All right, Becca, what are you working on?
Well, me, Kaelem, Lee, and John are actually heading to Vancouver in a couple days for the Student Journalism Conference.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I'm very excited.
So stoked.
3 of them went last year, but this is my first year going. It's actually my first year going. My first year going anywhere since 2016, and I'm happy that this is the opportunity that's getting me out of Newfoundland for a little bit.
There you go. Vancouver. Oh, amazing. 15 seconds left. Final word. Lee, thoughts?
Working on a Valentine's Day piece for about like the controversial yet sexy history of the Muse, about all the queer coverage.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks for the hang, folks.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, everyone. That is it for today's show. Tomorrow, we will be live from the newly reopened Hungry Heart Cafe, social enterprise. We'll have lots of stuff to talk about there, lots of people to meet, and maybe we'll get to sample some lunch. But until tomorrow, thanks for listening. Cheers. Here's the Olympics.